to your appliance point, what's exciting too, you mentioned consumer electronics. Doesn't it feel like they're getting closer and closer to being the same sort of industry? I obviously sold in a lot of the same stores, but just, seeing artificial intelligence and the cameras and screens and things showing up on appliances.
That was the buzzword for CES, like no question. We're in a really interesting intersection of in technology, I think, where a lot of appliance use cases are starting to integrate or originate from other tech. So it's a really interesting space where all of it is merging together. So really really fun to see what's coming for sure.
Welcome into the Independent Thinking Podcast. This is your host, Rob Stott. I love being able to talk about new technology. I mean, it might be the kind of history of myself, career history of covering technology and consumer tech and attending shows like CES and KBIS and the fun news that gets to come out of events like that. And not too long ago in this space, we had a really interesting announcement made, particularly around the appliance category, something that, there's innovations here and there, and we see AI get folded into these appliances and cameras and all the bells and whistles, but true innovation in the space feels like it's few and far between, maybe. We see different iterations of product, but truly groundbreaking technology or alterations to the category don't come by very often. And that's what we got towards the end of last year. More so, once Fast Company covered the story earlier this year with SlimTech, the new insulation technology that was announced by Whirlpool Corporation, and in particular the JennAir brand. It's a new way of manufacturing the insulation technology that essentially, without kind of stealing their thunder and Mario's thunder, Mario Gonzalez, we talked to from the JennAir brand today, but without stealing his thunder, it really basically removes the need for the styrofoam that gets used inside of refrigerators as they're built. And it's a thing that's going to allow, these refrigerators to ultimately be completely rethought of from, no pun intended, but the inside out, as far as, what they look like, where they fit, all sorts of different things. And truly exciting to be able to talk to Mario about it and, see what the intent is, how we'll see it form factor wise early on and what we can expect. And of course, trying to get some plugs, see if we'll be seeing this technology at prime time. It was on display at CES earlier this year, and we're talking right before KBIS as this drops, but I'm sure we'll see it there, but hopefully at prime time as well. So exciting to be able to talk to him and dive into this technology. And like I said, groundbreaking. Not often we get to talk about groundbreaking technology in home appliances, but here we are, and excited to do so with Mario and the Whirlpool/JennAir team. So let's dive into it. This is Mario Gonzalez of JennAir here on the Independent Thinking Podcast. All right, we are back on the Independent Thinking Podcast, and real excited today. We got, it's not often, we were talking about this before we started, Mario, but not often there's true innovation to talk about in the appliance space, and that's like you guys. That sounds wrong, right? You guys do a lot of great stuff. There's always innovation that's coming out of the Whirlpool and JennAir brands and everything going on over there, but some really exciting. It almost feels futuristic what we're going to be diving into today. So I appreciate you taking the time and joining us on the podcast. Mario Gonzalez, Senior Manager of Product Marketing for the JennAir brand, joining us today. So we appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Rob. Happy to be here. Happy to share, and really excited about what we'll talk about here. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, squeezing me into your schedule, we were talking about it as well beforehand. I know we all travel a lot, but you've been on the road, really getting out there to start this year, 2024. So again, really just appreciate the time, but your availability and being able to jump on with us. So tell us, let's dive into you first. I don't know how often you get the chance to talk about yourself. I'm sure you're asked regularly about JennAir and things you got going on and this SlimTech technology that we'll dive into, but tell us who Mario is, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've been with Whirlpool for about 7 years. I started as a market manager in South Florida. So I one of my favorite experiences, I'll tell you, and not because it's you here, but it's the bike fairs,
Yeah.
and the show that you guys put on. So, uh, man, I've been in consumer electronics for a long time, since I was like literally like 18, 19 years old, where I started working at Best Buy, occasional seasonal. Uh, so I've loved everything technology, everything consumer, and then somehow like the path took me into appliances, which is it's a fun, great business. You meet a lot of great people. You try in product marketing, trying to learn a lot about the consumer, how can we develop innovations and so on that addresses everything they need, and at the same time, like, just have a consistent stream of good products, good launches for our trade partners to really hit the market with. So, personally, wife and two kids, 5 and 1.5, boy and girl, which are a handful.
in
And
in the thick of it, man. I'm with you.
yeah, and there's enough age separation where the little man, he's 5, he's a little too much for the 1.5, so I'm waiting for her to like
Yeah.
catch up a little bit, so I don't have to like get in between them. But yeah, family is everything, man, and of course
That's
and work in the industry is awesome.
That's awesome. Well, so we've got a 6 and 3-year-old at home. So I got to ask, because when we
Awesome.
brought the 3-year-old home when he was an infant, like just
Yeah,
born, I'm pretty sure. So -3, he was about 3, almost 4, probably roughly around the same age, right? As
yeah.
you're coming home with a newborn, did they expect it to be like a walking, talking baby ready to play with as soon as they got home? Did you have that experience too? Like, wait a
Uh,
minute, what's this thing that doesn't move? And
That and like at the same level
yeah,
of like development. Like I have to tell
yeah,
my son often, like you realize just a
yeah,
year.
it's a baby. Yeah, right.
Not going to, like wrestle with you or any of that stuff. Like you're not there yet, man.
No, that's awesome. I can appreciate that for sure. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, to your appliance point, what's exciting too. You mentioned consumer electronics. Doesn't it feel like they're getting closer and closer to being the same sort of industry? I obviously sold in a lot of the same stores, but just seeing artificial intelligence and the cameras and screens and things showing up on appliances.
Yeah, that was the buzzword for
Yeah.
CES, like no question. I mean,
Yep.
we were following that. That's what everybody was talking about. But yeah, it is. We're in a really interesting intersection of in technology. I think where a lot of appliance use cases are starting to integrate or like originate from other tech, like from a Google, hub or home or Facebook hub and things like that. And then you have Matter coming in, and I won't talk to you about that one today, but that one's a fun talk
Yeah.
for sure. Where you're really looking at, for example, can you from your phone can you start some ambient music and start to preheat the oven at the same time because you have a party coming. So
Yeah.
it's a really interesting space where all of it is merging together. So really really fun to see what's coming for sure in that space.
SlimTech aside, because I know we're going to deep dive into that. Like, what about appliances right now and that innovation? I mean, you're coming off of CES, so I feel like great time to ask you, right?
Yeah.
What is something, and maybe it's what you kind of just described at a high level. Like, what gets you excited about like the innovation in appliances and sort of what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think it's tough not to go back to Slim Tech because
Fair,
there
yeah,
yeah
yeah,
uh, there's two camps, right? Like there's a
yep,
camp of what technology is allowing you to expand the functionality and things like that. So um, you have cameras inside ovens now,
mhm,
and you're able to, if you're in a room somewhere else in the house and you're able to see what's in there, you're able to monitor your food and things like that. That's pretty cool. So there's a lot of like tech driven innovations, I would say. And then there's also like and people at CES actually told us this, like human center innovation in a sense, which is, Slim Tech, for example, and I'm biased obviously here. Slim Tech, for example, allows you to potentially increase your capacity in your refrigerator by up to 25%. So like we're thinking of the consumer here. Why would you need 25% more capacity? Because you want to store more things. You want to minimize trips to the grocery store. You want to avoid food waste. Think about what happens when you're running out of space and you have something in your refrigerator. What's the first thing you're thinking of doing? If
right.
it's old, you're probably going to throw it away. So uh, that's kind of how I would say that I'm thinking about it. There's a lot of tech, and that's gonna make it effortless and easier than ever to interact and work with appliances. But
Mhm.
then there's also like innovations like SlimTech that it's about how do you take the core functionality of an appliance and just make it significantly better. So,
Right. Well, hey, perfect segue to be able to dive into. So, for those that have heard us mention it a couple times, SlimTech was announced. Was it towards the end of last year? I remember
yeah, it was
the
around middle of November
yep.
we announced. Yeah.
So I feel like I saw a lot of coverage of it. Obviously, press release goes out, and then maybe Wall Street, just one of those big pubs covered
Yeah.
it, and
Fast
the
Company, I think it's the
basket.
first
There you
one.
go. Got the news about it and really, started to dive into it. So, but for those that hadn't heard, I'm hoping everyone in this space, clients, retailers, know what we're talking about. But give that kind of high level overview before we dive down into it on what SlimTech is.
Yeah, sure. So SlimTech insulation technology, we really believe it's going to be one of the greatest refrigeration technology innovations in the last 50 years. Like we're very, very confident in that. So it is a proprietary powder-like material that basically removes the need for foam in your refrigerators. I mean, if you think of your refrigerator, what's inside, you have foam. That's how it's insulated. That's how it keeps the temperature and so on. So with SlimTech, this material allows you to, basically, in a sense, change how you look at refrigeration today. You are able to build a configuration that can deliver up to 25% more capacity. So imagine your, you know, 24, 25 cube refrigerator going up to 30, right? Within the same footprint without changing physical dimensions. Imagine not only like how much more can the consumer store in there, but how much more like innovative features you can put in there, right? Because now you get into interesting questions about like, what do I do with that extra space? Can I deliver something unique, something extra to the consumer? Um, and then in a different configuration, you can go up to 50% energy efficiency. So imagine your refrigerator today, let's call it 300 kilowatts a year, you going down to like 150
Wow.
and being ultra energy efficient. So Slim Tech really opens interesting paths for us to deliver great value propositions to all the consumers. And it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop there, right? There's benefits in preservation. There is benefits um, in how fast it cools the refrigerators, and what we're trying to do about, or what we're talking about, paths to recyclability. So it's a fully recyclable material. So it opens a lot of really interesting possibilities for us, is what I would say.
Yeah, no, and I imagine, we start to see already. Did you guys have a example of it in person with you at
We
CES?
did.
Yeah,
We did. Yeah.
a lot of traffic. I have to imagine going to that and kind of checking it out. What for those that weren't there? Maybe if you're watching the video version of this, we'll drop some images over top of it.
Sure.
But like, could you tell? Is there anything distinctly different when you walk up to it that you could tell? Like, hey, this is a SlimTech refrigerator.
Yeah, I think the obvious thing is that it's thinner, right? So like that's what you're going to, especially when you compare it to like a foam refrigerator, you're immediately going to notice how much thinner the walls, the door, everything is, because again, that's what the technology allows us to do: reduce the thickness
Mhm.
by up to like 66%. So think about that, how significant that is. So you're going from like, let's say this is your cabinet walls, and you're going down to like this.
Right.
So to put it in perspective, imagine that space gain on all sides, right? What that means. So that is the most noticeable thing. And then it is a specific metal on metal construction. So you'll also notice when you go up to it, let's say you run your hand through it, you touch it, it's a very robust feel. It's built with metal. It's a strong, obviously strong, durable material. So
No, that's awesome. And so, right now, obviously the shape and things like that, looking thinner and things like that. What do you kind of see? Like, what other ways? You mentioned the materials and build like that and new innovations inside. Could this lead to like more sizes per se? Like, what other ways could this technology change the refrigeration industry?
yeah, that's a great question. I think for example, in what we showed at CES was just the door.
Yeah.
Then we're talking about a full built-in refrigerator for KitchenAid brand. So the first launch will be in JennAir brand. But a thinner door is just the first of many possible, possibilities. Um, you could think about this as a way to, if you start thinking about just beyond your typical form of how refrigeration, think a drawer in that you put in your in your office, and that drawer is actually a refrigerated drawer, and you have your drinks there. Or think about even beyond like your commonly preserved goods, like if you think of like uh, skin and beauty care, right? Like you think of those goods that require some sort of cooling and some sort of very precise and specific environment. So imagine a drawer in your bedroom, which is like your beauty drawer, and you have all your creams and stuff in there. So it opens up a lot of, I would say, configuration possibilities and unique designs, because we can really go after like a lot of different use cases, and will we be able to go after different use cases in the future where this technology will show up where maybe today you don't expect it, or it's simply not there today.
Yeah, no, that I mean that's it, you've said like CES in particular. There's I think there's a couple brands out there that come to mind, but like you know I think of like coffee tables that might have like a little pocket, but it's to your point, it's like traditional refrigeration, so they're thick and like it's not bulky and it's bulky and heavy and things like that. So unique to think about like the idea that those could be more streamlined looking and just fall into different types of I mean we're almost talking about like you know think of a side table at a bed, right? Is kind of the first thing that comes to mind when you're describing this. And maybe something that appliance dealers never thought they'd have the opportunity to sell. So like that's a unique thing to think like, hey, it falls within the category, right? And how can we sort of integrate this into what we're selling and offering to customers?
Yeah, exactly. No, it allows us to, and this is how I would summarize. It allows us to really think beyond current form of
Yeah.
refrigerators as you know it.
Is there anything in understanding that you can only say so much without having to put the kibosh on us and like some agent shows up at my house here ready to off me for talking about this, but like any use case that you can think of that gets you really excited about the possibility of this technology? You mentioned a couple, right? We mentioned side tables and makeup drawers and things like that, like with a little bit of like what would be your idea? Like how would you use this technology in your house?
Yeah, I think. I think for this technology, before really expanding and going into like new spaces, I think we need to rethink the current
Yeah,
refrigerator.
that's fair.
Uh, so I just can't help but go back to what we can do within current form, right? So like if you think of a built-in refrigerator or a freestanding refrigerator, you increase capacity by 25%. So now I can put maybe an extra drawer or a longer drawer that stores more, fresh foods and so on. And because this technology allows you, because it has faster cooling speeds, so up to 30% faster, you're able to preserve your food fresher longer. Just think about that in
Yeah.
itself. Like I want to like think that current refrigeration is the base, implement the technology, elevate what that does even higher,
Yeah. I
uh, and then move on to the other fun use cases that
thing
we're
thing
thinking
that
about.
comes to mind, just you mentioned current form, obviously wider drawer, different more drawers, maybe even just like opening a door. And sometimes you have difficulty because of how thick the doors are, and you only got so much space when they
Yeah,
close. Like what you can put on a door of a refrigerator, being able to fit. Hey, maybe I could fit like 2 cartons of milk, in before having to
sure.
like not be able to shut the door. So like that's wild. You get to rethink sort of the entire interior of that
Exactly.
piece.
And that's exactly it. And I'll add that there's also like a big design component here, right? So like I kind of
Yeah,
mentioned before that this is essentially, metal construction. So you're gonna have metal interiors. So that means that you have a lot more precision and you have cleaner angles. Like think about when you are think about your refrigerator today. You have it's molded, plastic interiors, right?
Yep.
So like you have your contours on the ends and so on. With this, there's a lot more precision on basically how you build the unit. So this really changes how you build refrigerators.
Yeah, no more like awkward corners of like having to
Exactly.
fit, a couple of like what cups of yogurt can I fit under this little thing that's like jutting down because that's where
Exactly.
some of the construction is.
So it allows you to really, there's like a very, I think there's a lot of potential, is how I would say it, in all of the interior customization that you are enabling, not just from a purely capacity, like I've kind of
Right.
been mentioned on, but like design, and how it looks and so on. So
Who'da thunk we be talking about the interior of a refrigerator is like aesthetically pleasing, right? But like now that's what you get to do.
yeah, yeah,
Start to think about it that way. That's crazy.
exactly, exactly.
No, that's awesome. I so you kind of mentioned it. Obviously we're talking. You represent the JennAir brand, so this is what we'll start to see this technology introduced with JennAir. Like talk about the release timeline for
Cadence. Yeah,
SlimTech.
yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so we'll have the first launch is going to be in JennAir brand. It's going to be limited to SlimTech insulation in the door only, like we showed at CES, with our current column configuration, which it's in market today. So we have it's going to be a 30-inch column refrigerator launching in, or let's call it around the June July timeframe. So in the next events, as you said at the beginning, like KBIS and Bifers and so on, we'll get a lot more information out on how
Yeah.
that's going to go out. It is a limited run. So that'll be the first phase. Then we're expanding this into a full unit for KitchenAid brand, and that's what's coming in next. And then like we're still developing all the cadence and launch plans for all the configurations.
So no pressure. Are we gonna see one of these at prime time? Any chance?
Hopefully I don't sign up
Yeah.
for too much here, but I have my confidence in that. Yes,
No, that's why I excited to get up close with it because I mean I
for
didn't have
sure.
the chance this year to be at CES, and I know our team will certainly be at KBiz getting up close with it. So excited to kind
Absolutely.
of see it in person and
Fun.
the opportunities there. But you also mentioned too the limited run makes me think about internally for Whirlpool and the JennAir brand. Construction wise and manufacturing, does this have a big impact for you guys? I know if I remember right, there was talk about the plant, like a plant's being either built or reinvested, like reconfigured. Some of
Yeah.
the Whirlpool stuff. So talk about that a little bit. How does this innovate the way you guys are making appliances?
Yeah. I mean, I can't give too much away here,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
yeah, think about like any innovations, it takes time to like bring the concept into like a finished product. But for SlimTech specifically, it really require a different way completely in
Yeah.
how a refrigerator is manufactured. So there are enough challenges within that already. So that's why we did invest in a proprietary manufacturing process in our Ottawa, Ohio factory. So that's where these are going to come out of. Uh, and I mean that I can't put it differently or better than that. It's a new way to manufacture refrigerators with uh, the best innovation in the category, I think, in the last 50 years.
Yeah, no, that's plenty, right? We get it. So
Yeah,
that's awesome to see that yeah, it's cool that we have a partner that's thinking about like thinking that way, right? Thinking
right.
about new ways of creating these product that create I'm sure a better experience for the manufacturers as well, right? To put these products together, but then
So
ultimately the retailer that has to sell and then the consumer that gets the benefits of installing these products in their homes and realizing the value of something like SlimTech. So it's cool to
right.
see. I mean, what it's already feels like a futuristic technology, but like kind of the opportunities down the road too. This continues to advance, and it's not like this is an end game, right? So
No,
it'll be interesting to see how this you know the reaction to it has already been phenomenal. So like once it gets into market, the response there, but then then too like where's it go from here, right? So it'll be kind of an interesting story to follow.
yeah, no, I think we're internally, I mean, we're extremely excited. We've been working, I think you saw it in the announcements, like we have been working on this for quite a bit. So we are thrilled that we were finally able to uh, announce it and have products in market here very soon. And it's great to see
That was a
the
knock on wood, by the way. If
that was a
you're
knock on
just
wood. That was
listening,
a knock on wood.
I'll
And
amplify the noise on that so you can hear
uh, and
it.
yeah, and of course the reception from press, from trade partners, has been phenomenal. So just really thrilled and can't wait to get this out there.
What from the retailer's perspective, obviously being up on the technology and understanding it, you guys got resources galore that they can lean into to learn about and obviously see
Sure.
it. But how about for positioning to the customer? Like, is there a certain customer this makes sense for? Obviously, JennAir, kind of a step up brand, right? So you might have that customer in mind, but how you position the SlimTech technology or the products that will ultimately roll out with this, is there anything they have to do differently as they think about it and talk to their customers?
No, 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 not at all. I mean, it's going to be in terms of like function, it's refrigeration as you know it today, but with elevated performance. So you're going to, the way that I'm thinking about this is, you're going to, as a sales associate, as a trade partner, you're going to have more to talk about with this technology. You're going to have more like exciting value propositions to offer to the consumer. Now, in terms of consumer target, I think back to the first part of the question, JennAir, of course, is Whirlpool Corporation's
Mhm.
luxury brand. So initially, we're obviously that's our consumer
Yep.
target, so the luxury consumer that's doing column pairings, and they're doing a huge remodel of an entire kitchen and so on. But we're not going to stop there, right? Like the eventual plan is to really roll this technology out through the
Yeah.
category,
Yeah.
to all the different consumer targets.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, like I said, now I'll knock on wood too. So we'll be excited to see it at prime time and get this product out in the market as well. But hey, we appreciate you taking the time and diving into it with us. And like I said, a couple minutes ago, just look forward to continuing to see this story evolve and progress, here over the coming months and years.
Awesome, man. No, thank you for having me on, and thank you for the excitement on this. I'll definitely sign up for prime time. So we'll
We'll
see
see.
everyone
Hey, we'll
there.
have a whole podcast set up there, so maybe we'll have you on there and do a little follow up, see what the reactions like on site in Vegas there in
Yeah,
just a few
fantastic.
weeks.
We'll do it for sure.
Awesome, appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome, and thanks again to Mario. Like I said, a really cool opportunity, right, to be able to dive into this and explore a new technology and really design feature within the home appliances space with this slim technology. So cool to be able to do that and explore sort of where appliances could be heading because of it. So excited to see it roll out into their JennAir product, and then further on down the line, what else it can do to the home appliance category. So appreciate him taking that time. And as always, appreciate you listening to the Independent Thinking Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.